Okay, so today's My Hero Academia episode is where things start to get a bit real, and I'm just trying to, like, before, when I did my last review, I kind of had everything written down, but I want to do it a bit differently this time around, just because it's kind of fresh in my mind, and I feel like this is the best way of doing it, just because I'm not reading off a script, and it's a bit more natural, I guess. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode. It's definitely dope, and I have to say, every single time that I see Deku use One For All, I legit just fanboy. It's like, it's crazy to see how much of how far he's come since he obtained One For All, and at the point that he is at now. It's just such a big difference. Before, he would legit break an arm every single time he tried to use, you know, One For All, and now he can use it without that many issues. Obviously, he does have to stay within the 5% parameter for his strength, but apart from that, every single time you see it, it's dope. And now he can actually use his quirk naturally, you know, without having any drawbacks, essentially. So the episode basically starts off with Shigaraki again, and they basically talk about just the League of Villains and how if certain villains see that it's actually starting to move on, or it's basically if the League of Villains starts to become a prominent force in the world that they live in, then more villains are going to start to come out of the shadows and eventually join them. That's basically the whole premise of that starting scene. And then obviously now they are going on that training camp, and it turns out that Class B is actually going with them as well, if I'm not mistaken. However, so they get on the bus. Razorhead says that they will most likely be going for around an hour, and then it cuts to like the next scene, and they just randomly stop in the middle of nowhere. It's just a massive forest in front of them, and then they're just all like, wait, why have we stopped here? And this is where we get the introduction of the Wild Pussycats. I've been hearing a lot about these characters, and oh boy, did they make an entrance. But basically, Deku has great knowledge of who they are. Basically, they are owners of a massive area of land. They are heroes. And that basically signifies that it's the start of their training. They have to get to a certain area in around 3 hours or so. Well, that's what they say. They say, okay, you have to get to this particular position in the mountains in 3 hours. If you don't get there in 3 hours, then you're going to have to just completely miss out on food. You're not going to be able to eat. So one of the Wild Pussycats pushes them off with her quirk, pardon me, with her quirk, pushes them off the mountain. And now they basically just have to take on a series of wood monsters, I suppose, would be, so I guess that's just the best way of putting it. And then my boy, Deku, Todoroki, Bakugo, who I'm still not a big fan of, and Ida, they all, like, just take out this beast, like, without any issues. It was just so, if you watch the episode, it was just one of the coolest scenes. Because you have boy Todoroki just freezing his legs, and then you have Deku with his full cowling, you have Bakugo, who, okay, I've said this before, Bakugo's quirk is cool, and he does cool stuff, but Bakugo as a character is just extremely annoying to me, and you have Ida as well, like, bro, it was so hype, it legit was so hype, and I like how they try to incorporate every single one of the class members, because that's an issue, you know, quite a few animes. There's just like 1, 2, maybe 3 people that are actually useful, but then it's just that's it. No one is useful beyond that. I'm mainly referring to Dragon Ball here. But when it comes to my heroes so far in the anime, everyone has a use. You know, the girls got involved, that was dope. You had a lot of the other boys doing cool shit as well. It was just a really enjoyable part of the episode. So then we move forward to the actual cabin that I suppose they're supposed to be staying at. And once they get there, they are like so worn out. It took way more than 3 hours, because they were supposed to get there by like 12, like in the afternoon, so that'll be like lunchtime, but they got there during the evening when the sun is setting, so it clearly took more than 3 hours. And then, while I don't know the names for the Wild Pussycats, so I do apologize. I think it's the one with the red one, the one with the red clothing. I'm just gonna try to differentiate between the two like that, but then you have the blonde one as well. So the one in red clothing, I think it was the one in red clothing anyway, basically said that she was surprised, or they were surprised, that it didn't take longer than it actually did for them to get there, and that the 3 hours is the amount of time that the Wild Pussycats could have done that course in. So 3 hours was ambitious, it was definitely out of their reach for the class, but I'm guessing they tried to give them an incentive to actually try to beat it as fast as possible, but then the blonde one points out that the ones that were most impressive were to the surprise of no one, Deku, Todoroki, Bakugo, and Ida. And that was dope, because, again, that entire sequence was just so dope. We had all of them working together, and I would imagine that's going to be some sort of foreshadowing later on. I'm pretty certain we are going to see them fight together at some point in the anime, or even in the manga. Well, obviously, what happens in the manga is going to happen in the anime, so I would imagine that we are going to see them working together again at some point. And it was just such a dope scene. But yeah, she basically said that they were the ones that stood out the most. And she basically asked them if they were able to act without hesitation because of their experience. Of course, they fought Stain. I would imagine that she does know that in a very important detail. But they acted without hesitation. For whatever reason, obviously it's just supposed to be a training thing. But the point still stands. They definitely have improved a lot. Their experience that they have now is definitely going to be a major factor when it comes to taking on villains or just any challenges that they are most likely going to face. And one thing that I forgot to mention, when the Wild Pussycats, first appeared, we see this kid in the background and we don't know who he is, okay? And then after they get to the cabin or whatever, Deku's like, who is this kid? One in red explains, oh, that's Kota. Sorry if I butchered the name completely. And she is basically the son of her cousin, if I'm not mistaken. So then Deku goes over and tries to greet him, and he just punches him in the dick. Yeah, it kind of goes like that, because kids, I suppose, are just annoying these days. And then Bakugo is kind of like, okay, I see my guy, he's actually not that bad. And then Todoroki's like, he kind of reminds me of you, and I have to agree, low-key, this kid reminds me of Bakugo, well, a young Bakugo, basically. But in the end, despite being extremely late, they do all end up eating. Obviously, you don't want the students to train on an empty stomach. But then it cuts to the hot springs, and of course, you guessed it, who else? Who else but Mineta is going to try to take a peek? So, this is one of the times where his quirk is actually useful. So, he uses the balls to try to climb over the wall. And who's standing right at the top? The little kid, Koda. I probably butchered his name. I'll keep butchering his name, I apologize. But he's standing at the top of the wall. He pushes Mineta off. And then the girls basically say that Mineta's kind of... they basically say he's a pervert. And he turns around. He looks at them. He falls over the wall, he passes out, and then my boy Deku uses that one-for-all quirk to pick him up. Well, the full cowling, same thing. And then he takes the kid to... Pardon me, he takes the kid to essentially the nurse's office, where the one in red... I need to learn the names. The one in red is there, and she basically explains why he has a dislike towards heroes. And this is based on Deku's, not necessarily a question, but more of an assumption. He's just kind of like, he has a dislike for heroes, doesn't he? And then she goes on to explain that his parents died, and that to him felt like the parents just kind of abandoned him because they are heroes. But then she's like, as a hero, it is an honor to die like that because you're dying in the line of duty, but the kid doesn't see it that way, so it's kind of all over the place. And then she goes on to say that the kid most likely doesn't like, you know, the Pussycats either because they are heroes as well. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm curious to see what kind of role he has, but as a kid, I don't think that we are going to see too much of him, but for him to make this much of an impact in episode 1, I would imagine that, pardon me, I would imagine that he is going to have a bit of a role in the upcoming season. But the point is, this episode was dope. I like the action sequences of Deku, Todoroki, of course I mentioned this before, and just seeing Deku use the full cowling is just so dope. It really is, without any like drawbacks. And I almost forgot, but towards the end of the episode, it's day 2, and they are training like really early in the morning. I say training, they are about to train, and we have Razorhead giving Bakugo the same ball. Well, I would imagine it's the same ball that he gave him at the start of Season 1, if I'm not mistaken, just to see how far they can throw that ball, and to see how much they have improved within the 3 months. I believe it's 3 months anyway. Yeah, I'm pretty certain it's 3 months. So he throws the ball, and it's not that much of an improvement. So he basically says that the purpose of the training is to improve their quirks, because they may have improved technically, mentally, and, you know, in all those factors, but they haven't really improved their quirks all that much. So what I'm understanding from this is that we are going to see a lot of training for their particular quirks, which is exciting, because like he said, we haven't seen that much of an improvement when it comes to their quirks, apart from Deku, really. So I'm definitely curious to see how that goes down. But when it comes to Deku, I would imagine that he is just going to be capable of increasing the percentage of power that he can put, or that his body can withstand, which obviously makes sense, because right now he is still extremely powerful. And I'm curious to see how the others improve their quirks. But that was it. Definitely a fun episode. Looking forward to next week. Got a few new characters, and I dig them so far. Yeah, let me know your thoughts about the episode. Definitely an improvement from last week. Not to say that last week was bad, but this one definitely had a bit more action. We got introduced to a few more characters, and we just got to see all of the classmates in action, basically. Yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.